Welcome, everybody, to another example of the Pagan. And today I have the fortune and the great fortune to be interviewing Eric Cooper. Eric Cooper is a known paranormalist and recently an expert on the types of cults that are in this world. And I think that we need to be more aware of them. I don't necessarily think that they're all dangerous. I don't think they're all everywhere, but there are dangerous ones we should know about, and we should understand where they are. Um, and another reason, and I'll bring it up later, is I also believe that we need to keep ourselves from being labeled cults. Because I think there's going to be a lot of legal actions, a lot of things against cults. So how do we also at it? But first, we're going to talk to him, and we're going to find out more about him. Hi, Eric. Welcome here.
Good morning. It is 7 o'clock in the morning. It's still dark out.
It's a little lighter here, but yeah,
Eh,
I'm glad you're doing it. So let me go ahead and start. So I know you through the paranormal community. You've ran groups, you've done a lot of
Okay.
organization and everything else. But I now recently found that you have been one of the people who've done a lot of research, some thousands and thousands of books and documents on the nature of cults. Can you tell us a little bit about how did you get there? Why this?
Okay. So to start with, I was born and raised here in Washington State. Um, I was born in a very evangelical, fundamentalist parents. I'm an only child. Um, it was never a religion I fit into, but they tried their damnedest. Um, I went to church every Sunday morning, night, Wednesday night, revivals, Christian school my entire life, graduated Christian school. After high school, I went to Junior Bible College for a semester. Um, my parents tried their damnedest. It was never my belief. It was theirs. And I just didn't fit into that mold. And even in the last couple of years, I've heard um, others that were born and raised the same way. They mentioned Bill Gothard, and I'm like, well, damn. I remember going to Bill Gothard conventions and hearing about how the family is supposed to be raised, and well, you're seeing that today. But we'll get there. We'll get to that. That's part of the Christian nationalist agenda is getting the family back
Hmm.
to. um,
I was raised very similar. I was an early, would we soon be known Pastor Ray Bakke, and I was in his first church, and yeah, I remember that trying to fit in.
you know, I went to Swigert College a semester before he got exposed and everything crashed down. Uh, um, but growing up, even in Christian school, I was writing papers on the Aryan nations in Hayden Lake, Idaho, and this is back in the late '70s, early '80s when they're actually very active. They're not Hayden Lake's not, but they're still around Idaho, all over. And I was So my goal as a child, even all the way up to the age of 12, 13, was to be a large animal veterinarian. And that was my goal. I was going to do that. And my uncle was a genetic scientist. He was a professor at Washington State University in Alabama. He studied animal DNA, and so every time he would come and visit the family was once a year, I'd have a whole list of questions. How much are cages? How long is this? So that was my goal. It never happened. Um, but my hobby, I guess you could say, was even at a young age was true crime. Because in Washington State, we had the Green River Killer. We had all kinds of crazy shit that happened. I mean, we're in the mountains. What do you figure?
Mhm.
Uh, but none of that happened. I joined the Army in '89. Um, and as soon as I got my foot out of the door, I started studying pagan. Uh, so backtracking just a little bit, why pagan? Well, I lived in the mountains in Big Lake, Washington, where I grew up. Have my own mountains to play in, and every Sunday, or well, every day for that matter, but especially on Sunday, I'd take my church clothes off, put my play clothes on, and I'd be out in the mountains. I'd be out in the woods. I'd be following animals around, and looking back, what you call it now is I'd be grounding. I'd be grounding in nature.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and again, I remember, oh my God, in the 70s and 80s, you had the rainbow, and my godmother was, oh my God, you gotta stay away from that rainbow. That's that new age stuff, and it's nothing but cults and nothing but Satan, and anything that's not of God is of Satan. And you're like, well, really? Whatever. Uh,
Mm-hmm. So
but
let
that was
me so let me stop you there. Let's go ahead and give our audience a moment. What are we defining as a cult? We throw that word around a lot, but what
okay.
is a cult?
Well, she was honestly, in that context, she was mistaking cult from a cult,
Mm-hmm.
because she used the word cult a lot. Now, a cult to me, and by definition, is a group that has a charismatic leader. They are very controlling. Their words flow. Um, what you will find psychologically is they are very narcissistic. They are control freaks. They must be in control of everything. Um, oh God, I'm trying to think of the name
Oh,
of the Children of God. I think was one perfect example.
oh, the Children of God is probably one of the most well-known example.
As far as being in control of the people or the flock.
That's right.
Um, well, Jim Jones. I mean, Jim Jones would be another prime example of that too. All of them are. But you will find they have a lot of them will go to we'll use Christianity as a prime example because a lot of them are a very small flavor, and they usually make themselves a prophet. Again, that's where the narcissistic traits come from. No one can question them. No one can put them down. They'll get their followers to the point where they will, if you get expelled from a cult or kicked out of a cult, you're going to hell. And if you were
Mm-hmm.
born and raised in that, you know nothing else. Like you're going to burn in hell. Oh my God, there might be a hell. Well, no, not Mike. According to Bob, there is a hell. And if you were a child raised in that, I feel really bad for the children the most because they don't have a say of getting out of the cult. It's their parents that got them into the cult. Um,
So, going on with yours, so why did you take an interest in these types of organizations?
well, let me finish with what a cult is.
Okay.
uh, but you do have your charismatic leader. The MK Ultra. If you've ever heard of the governmental, yeah, the CIA's experiment with MK Ultra, that is a real thing. It's been documented through CIA documents.
It is a real thing.
Um, and some cults, they say, were a part of the MK Ultra. I don't have a list of them. I'm still getting to that information.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let me say something real quick. I have a video library of roughly 10,000 documentaries that I'm going through on everything from terrorism to extremism to serial killers and the psychology of deviance and you name it, the worst of humanity. Um, so you have your crazy leader, your charismatic
Mm-hmm.
leader, and he's going to have his little leadership underneath him, and they're your control factors. Um, and they are going to another big factor is they're going to try to cut you off from your friends and family. No, not always. Some of them they let their people go out and about, but they're still monitoring you. They're monitoring your cell phones. They're monitoring what you do and say. I mean, look at Scientology. Scientology, everyone lives their life, does what they're going to do. Some of them work for Scientology companies or within the Scientology church, um, but they're pretty much free to do what they want. Now, again, children of God, they were. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. I keep going back to that one, but I mean,
Well,
there's 11 billion of them. Um, so they cut you off from family. All of your money goes to them. All of your property goes to them.
right.
Um, those are your three, I'd say, three major tiers or red flags you want to watch for.
So, charismatic leader, right?
Charismatic leader
Cutting you off from your friends and family
and
and
complete
having a leader,
control.
huh?
Complete control of your life from your finances to your home to your belongings. You have nothing. Everything goes to the group leader.
It's very interesting. The one that you talk about cutting off people from your family, it seems we see some of that being reinforced. Like when you tell your family you're a pagan, a lot of them will cut you off.
Right,
If you
right,
say
right, right.
you're gay, they will self-censor you. Hmm?
Okay, the difference between that. Um, so your group leader is the one that's cutting you off from friends and family. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And usually they do it coercively. They will tell you, well, your family's wrong. God told me, blah,
Right.
blah, blah. It's coercive talk. And they have you convinced. Again, these are very charismatic people. That they can do no wrong and they can say no wrong because they're narcissists. Um, but I mean, look at Manson.
Mm-hmm.
Manson was very convincing. He would walk up to you and you would follow him wherever, according to a lot of the women and even some of the men that were part of the Manson
Oh
family.
yeah.
So yeah, it's one thing. So when you say you're pagan and your family cuts you off, that's your family cutting you off. That's different.
Mm-hmm.
But no, you're absolutely right. Or if you come out and say I'm LGBT, and that was my big worry. So I was pagan for, oh God, 20 years before my parents found out, and it's interesting because they didn't know. I think mom suspected, but so my daughter was living with my mom and dad while I was in Iraq, and my mom told her, "Well, get ready for Sunday school." And she looked at my mom and said, "No, I don't have to go to Sunday school. My dad's a pagan high priest." And, oh my God. Yeah. Um,
From the mouths of babes.
hmm and so that's how my parents uh, got, I guess, um, oh, what's the word? The, the,
Informed.
yeah, well, like I said, they already kind of suspected, but that was that's what they needed to hear to know. And so
Yeah.
yeah, we had a talk, but mom's like, "Well, I wish you would come to Jesus, but we just won't talk religion, and we don't." And she still
Mm-hmm.
prays for my soul, but that's fine, whatever. Um, so that's what a cult is by definition, and of course there's variances. Now, why would we worry about that? Well, again, you look at some of the extreme sides. Well, look at Heaven's Gate. Heaven's Gate, a whole bunch of people lost their lives, committed suicide because they thought they were going to an alien vessel behind Haley's Bob.
And followers of Heaven's Gate still exist who believe that was absolutely true.
Heaven's Gate is still active. It's still an active cult because there's still somebody updating the website.
Oh no, it's still an active cult of about 300 members across the world.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, and they actually reinforce the idea that their souls are with that comet and they're coming back to pick the rest of the world up. Those who are left behind are now waiting for Bebop, which is going to come back in like 132 years, some weird number, and they're preparing for its return.
Here's what's funny about that whole thing.
Hmm.
In the 90s, I was also a UFO investigator.
Hmm.
94, 94 specifically. And I was in an alcohol rehab, an army alcohol rehab, so in an army hospital, going through this rehab program, and we had our own psychologist. Well, the psychologist pulled me. It was 19 April 1997, I think, when that happened, and she actually pulled me into her office
Hmm.
and was like, "Specialist Cooper, you're not going to commit suicide, are you?" Like, what? I hadn't heard what happened. I hadn't been in the. We don't watch news in a rehab. It's like, well, you didn't hear about that Heaven's Gate thing? Of like, who the hell is that?
Hmm.
Said, well, a bunch of people committed suicide and thought they were going to a spaceship. I'm like, that's just fucking nuts. No. Why the hell am I going to commit suicide? And so then we started talking about UFOs, and she told me about her UFO experience. Like, huh, interesting. Um, but again, so there you have, Heaven's Gate that did uh, atrocious suicides, thinking they're all brainwashed. They're going to go up to Haley Bop, this spaceship. And they actually, they castrated themselves. They wore the same tennis shoes, Nikes specifically. Um, and then you've got other cults that they actually do satanic sacrifice. So
Hmm.
that's actually where you see the occult coming into a cult.
Hmm.
You know, in some cases, you have satanic cults. Um, and then you have terrorists. You have Elm Shrinko, who out of Japan, who did a sarin attack of a Tokyo subway, killing. It was a small number. I think they killed like 20, maybe, with Elm Shrinko, but hundreds were had to go to the hospital. Were hospitalized. To me, that was a test run. That wasn't the attack. That was a test run because they come to find out they had several anthrax
Hmm.
factories and more sarin gas, but anthrax specifically factories. So that's where terrorism comes in. And I can't remember the name of the cult that was in Oregon, but there was a cult in Oregon that also put botulism spores in a restaurant that did a biological attack. So the chance of terroristic type attacks with a cult has happened, and it's still possible today. You never know what their ideology is. Um, so that's why you really want to watch cults kind of careful. And they're all around you. There's hundreds that are still active today.
Well, so people throw it around. They talk about the Taylor Swift cult, and they're talking about celebrity cults, and so they do diminish those words. We're not talking about our celebrity worship. That's pharaonic religion that we've had for a very long time. We're not
Right,
really, huh?
right.
But we do see celebrities. Let's talk about why not? Since you become over my mind, like the P. Diddy campaign, the recent whole trials, Sean Combs, right? And we see there his influence, his power, his money, his energy allowed him to do a sex cult for all practical purposes.
Mhm.
Um, what he had underneath it was a cult that was powered by his celebrity status. And I don't want to throw that around, but and people have not really named that as such, but it is about the celebrity cult aspect, and people worry about that misbehavior. Hmm?
No, absolutely. And so celebrities get sucked into cults. Like look at Nexium.
Hmm.
Nexium was a sex cult. Kevin Raniere, I
Yep.
think was his name.
Yep.
Kevin Kevin doesn't sound right, but Mr. Raniere, who's in prison, um, that, and they come across as fitness gurus. So be careful with fitness gurus, because most of them, and especially anytime they become a pyramid type scheme, you
Oh,
need to be
sure.
careful. Those are usually cult tied. Um, and like you said, yeah, celebrity status. Again, you're looking at um, that godlike. Oh my God, it's John Travolta, or wrong cult, but yeah, John Travolta Scientology.
Oh
But
yeah, he was. I know his story pretty well. We'll talk about more about. Yeah, I'll get into my ties with Scientology in the future on future shows.
perfect.
After all, I am Ed Hubbard. I'm known as Ed the Pagan. Yeah, people don't make that connection very often. Uh, so let's go ahead and so now we're facing it. So as pagans in particular, I'm not looking for pagan cults. I don't see very many of them out there.
You don't. You don't. You see
Um,
pagan now. You on the extremist side, you see pagan extremists,
oh, sure.
mostly coming from the heathen, because they've taken over the heathen iconography, the rune symbols and whatnot. Or you got the soldiers of Odin, which are
Okay.
another extremist group. Um,
Well,
but
isn't that
cult,
really a big battle right now? Because a lot of these extremists are also blood. Your God is in your blood, which is to say, if you're not of the right
they're
nationalities or the
they're
right
white
people.
they're white supremacists.
Okay, let's
Specific,
say it right out.
specifically, they're white supremacists. Now, the true heathens, look at the Viking culture, for example. The Viking culture was multicultural. They
Hmm.
didn't see themselves as true blood or true race. Um, so when you're looking at it, one of our soldiers actually made an entire presentation on how to identify the heathen extremists versus the true heathens that worship the old gods, not kinship. That's the key factors. When they start talking about kin and worshiping kin, those are your extremist types. If they worship Odin, only Odin, or only those are your they're the ones that kind of got sucked up into the extremist side. I think it got exposed a lot January 6th when you had the QAnon shaman who had all the he didn't
Hmm.
know what the hell he was. I mean, he went up and said a Christian prayer with
I think you said it best. He was a QAnon shaman. Hmm?
uh with all kinds of he had the Dreisel and the I can't remember. Oh, what's the hammer of
So
Thor?
there's actually a word for them, and it's and I find it very and there's pretended Aryans to pretend pretending
Right,
Aryans.
that makes sense.
They think they know,
Uh-huh.
and they create these sort of ideas, but it is like, oh, I don't know. It's like the old Stephen Colbert's truthiness.
Hmm.
It feels true, so it
It
must
makes
be
sense.
true, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Or if it was on the internet, it's got to be true.
Yes.
That's the other thing. I think the internet killed us all. Social media is killing our kids left or right.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, you don't see a whole lot of. I'm trying to think. Um, cults that follow pagan ideology, because for the most part, um, well, face it, most pagans keep to themselves anyway.
Well, yeah. And I also think
They
that
do.
a lot of them come from various forms of traumatized Christianity.
Yep.
I used to think in Islam, we've had Islam members, we've had who've converted, we've had others who do it, but a lot
Okay.
of them are traumatized. Hmm?
You brought it up, so I got to say this: every religion has extremists.
Hmm.
There are Islamic terrorists, but that is not true to true Islam. You
No.
have Christian terrorists, and oh my God, the looks I get when I say that Christians have never committed terrorism. So when you explain an abortion, a Planned Parenthood bomb, what do you explain? Explain to me a gay bar being blown up. Explain to me an assassination of a doctor. Let's talk about Hutari, a militia in Michigan that was a Christian militia that targeted law enforcement because they responded to Satan. Uh, but the answer you get, they weren't true Christians, but actually they were in their own mind. You can't say that.
So so one
Uh,
of the activities of any cult to protect themselves
mhm.
is that when members act out under the same title, you deny that they even have a right to exist.
Yep.
When somebody says not all Christians, okay, it's a way to protect their own identity, because they can't deal with the fact that people interpret it differently.
Well, there's at least 200 different flavors of Christianity. There's at least
Hmm.
200, 2,000 flavors of paganism. You've got 10 different flavors of Catholicism.
Hmm.
I think the biggest threat within Catholic is Opus Dei. If you've ever heard of the Opus Dei
Sure.
Catholics, they are the
Um,
ones that follow Christian nationalism.
to give you an example of somebody who became Christian Day in the United States, Christian Day believes in the strictness of the idea that the Catholic Church is universal.
Hmm.
It is, and people don't realize it. If you were to line up all the ambassadors of the world by their authority, numero uno, number one, no once
Yeah.
is the Catholic because they wrote all the laws, and
Hmm.
Opus Dei protects that. The idea of a political arm within the Catholic Church is Opus Dei.
Yeah.
And Mark Zuckerberg was inducted into Opus Dei back in 2009, 2010.
I think J.D. Vance is too.
Um, he's Seven Mountains too. We won't talk about that.
No,
Um,
he's evangelical.
yeah,
Oh,
he's definitely.
honestly, if you look at the roots of all of them, they're all tied to today's Christian nationalism. Which we'll talk into the constitutionality of that. Maybe another. I've got so my bachelor's degree is in Homeland Security,
I
and I
did
get
not know
asked.
that. Congratulations.
I got that in 2020. So I have
Hmm.
a BA in Homeland Security, and I get asked, well, what's that mean? Homeland Security is an agency. No, it's an umbrella.
Hmm.
Homeland Security is an umbrella of 22 agencies that were, after 9/11, were pulled into the Department of Homeland Security, a brand new department. And it covers Coast Guard, FBI. No, wait. No, FBI is, I'm trying to remember. I believe
It
FBI.
was a part of it. I mean, it's independent, but it's also Homeland Security has control over the FBI too, in part.
It's a CIA that's not. CIA is still its own thing, which I
Right.
don't like the CIA anyway. But anyway, so Kaiser University, I'm actually on the Homeland Security Advisory Council for Kaiser University to discuss how to move forward with the degree program to get Homeland Security, future Homeland Security agents, the best training, the best education they can moving forward. Because the nice thing about Kaiser University is they actually help you find a job. So, with a bachelor's degree, for example, I could be a field agent supervisor in the Seattle FBI office. That's one example. Or, you know, the Homeland Security you see today in this administration is not Homeland Security. They've gone full out, let's round up the brown people. And anymore, it's not even just round up the brown people, but anyone that goes against our administration, round them up and put them in a camp. And now they're going after homeless people. If you live on the streets, they're going to round you up and put you in a concentration camp. That's the 2026
And
plan.
they've talked about that. So let's go ahead and talk about that. This is where I think my audience is most concerned.
Mm-hmm.
There's been leaks about FBI creating lists. They just said recently, over like 2 days ago, in December 23rd, that if you're filming, yeah, that if you're filming police operations, you are potentially domestic identified as a domestic terrorist, gathering information, which is against, yeah, which we hear about. So they're saying all of these things in the idea of converting a good idea. Why was Homeland Security formed? Because we've discovered after 9/11 and other attacks that different departments had the clues, but nobody had all the clues together to identify it.
It was a jurisdictional war.
Hmm.
So little cops down here couldn't communicate with the FBI. It was their jurisdiction. And so they made fusion centers. Fusion centers aren't a conspiracy. Oh my God, the conspiracy you hear about fusion centers. The thing that's not liked about fusion centers, for example, every major city has one. They are not
Hmm.
They are not federally oversighted. They are privately oversighted, so anything can happen in them. Every local law enforcement, our sheriff office, for example, has an officer that has access to the fusion center.
Hmm.
That's a good way Adam Boffin Division was caught, for example. And we'll get to Adam Boffin Division. They were here in my community back in 2017, and that's a neo-Nazi terrorist group. Um, backtracking. I'm trying to think where we left
But
off for a second.
but today, okay.
Homeland Security. So I've also taken constitutional law.
Hmm.
Homeland Security. I've taken courses in every aspect of terrorism, from biological to cyber to radiological, and investigation of terrorism. And then, of course, you got critical infrastructure security. You've got constitutional law, psychological, organizational psychology, criminal justice. So it's a very, very broad degree program. Um, and already being retired Army, with 4 combat tours. I was in Somalia in '93. I was in Kuwait in '91. I did 2 tours to Iraq, '04 through '06. Um, I already had a good understanding of terrorism and what it was, extremist groups. I was already tracking them. Um, so it gets, having the degree behind me just gives me a little more. I can stand up and say this because I have a degree behind it. But let's see, it's
I
starting to
think
get
that's
daylight.
important. I think one of the biggest arguments we're facing now on the internet, which, let's be honest, give cults as well as small minority religions.
Hmm.
In my case, it helped me build a global network for my family tradition. They
Right.
got us moral equivalency at the Parliament of World Religions by being on the United States. It took 30 years.
Hmm.
And that would not have been possible without the internet. Well, at the same time, it's caused all of these atrocities. And in truth, we see the weaponization of all language across the internet.
Yep.
I mean, if you're on Facebook, you're in a war zone, and you know it. But I think one of the things I think that we're talking about, Homeland Security today, is being used as a mantra for abusive situations.
It absolutely is. And I got into this discussion. I'm still friends with one of my professors. In fact,
Hmm.
he's the one who asked me to come to the advisory council.
Right?
Dennis McLean, uh, good guy, and he doesn't like what's going on. But he said, Eric, don't focus on now. Focus on the future, because this is every administration has their goal.
Hmm.
This Trump's goal, and it's going to go away. I disagree. The damage has been done right now. The dissolving of USAID funding, the destruction of public radio, NPR, for example. All this stuff is going to take another 4 years just to fix the damage that's been done in one. Um,
And let me point out to people, Trump also did a lot of damage in 2016 to 2020. He began a lot of things that weakened him. And then we came into Biden. He did not correct a lot of them. He let them stay.
that's my problem with the Democrats. The Democrats are just as weak. They're all friends. You can't tell
I'm
me
sure
anything different.
85% of all investors
Hey,
of the
look
donor
at
class is that in both parties.
look at Epstein for a perfect example. The Democrats could have released the Epstein files if they knew the Democrats weren't in that list. They could have
Yeah,
released it 20 to 24. And now Trump gonna release it? No, no, no. I
right.
mean, no. They're all in it. Yeah.
And people don't realize in those million pages, there's another conspiracy that never got fully solved. It's
Which
called the
one's that?
Panama Papers. And at the time the Panama Papers came out, it almost dissolved. They had to bury a lot of it because of the bad behavior of the national and international banks. And you keep hearing about all of these donations, these cash things from Epstein. The problem
Mm.
is we have always had, and this is just the way the world has been, is that we've always had this sort of aristocratic or what we would call leadership. And it's by family, influence, wealth, and it's shifted over the years, but we've always had a sort of authoritarian, totalitarian system in place for
Mm.
humanity. And it starts with the bandits who robbed villagers. Until they said, well, we won't rob you if you give us part of your food. And that became the
Yeah.
word tax. Hmm? Right? So this idea of violence, force, and this sort of undermining of the main population
Hmm.
has always been there in some form. It- oligarchies in America. What's different is how much freedom do we have under these systems? How much control can we take back of them? In the United States, we've taken back some of this control over and over again, unions and things of that nature. To
Right.
give 1948 to 1972 is the best economy ever for the middle class in history of the world.
Mm.
And then, of course, then the oligarchs attacked and took it away. Uh, Instead of continuing what would have been a prosperous virtual cycle.
Eh, Oh my God.
There's a lot in there. But
There is
let's go ahead and let's talk from a pagan point of view. What should they be watching for today? Let's give them a little bit more of what they should be watching for today in their own community to protect themselves. Hmm? Should they be worried about protecting themselves?
absolutely.
Okay. Why?
Um, so okay, let's talk about the untalked about group, which is the Black Robe Regiment. So the Black Robe Regiment is a Christian militia that has infiltrated a lot of churches, primarily the Patriot churches,
Mm-hmm.
the likes of Greg Locke and Steve Smith, and there's a whole bunch of other wackadoodles. But they're dangerous in the fact that they came from the oath breakers. That's what I call them. They're not the oath keepers because they don't keep an oath. But the oath keepers, the militia that you all saw with eye patch dude, that's all he's
Mm-hmm.
known as. He shot himself in the eye. That's not a soldier. But they came from the oath breakers, and they went to churches and they said the Black Robe Regiment was back in the Puritan days, and they were the preachers that put on the black robe and went out with guns, and they shot people that were against God. Well, that's their goal. Um,
Mm-hmm.
they've been doing military style tactic training. They've been weaponized, and they're trying to infiltrate. They're big in Texas. I know there's one in Spokane here in Washington State. There's another one in Tacoma. Again, Patriot churches. They go have church in front of Planned Parenthood, which by why in and of itself, that's a protest. That's a First Amendment right. But minute you bring in weapons and you start acting out, that can be seen as a crime. Um, so why are they a threat? Well, watch your churches because I know for a fact that there's a couple people here in my community that have that belief that they can go out and kill people in the name of God. What's that look like? LGBT, witches, pagans. Um, we've had a couple of circumstances. I believe one in North Carolina. Watch the
Mm-hmm.
Wild Hunt. The Wild Hunt newspaper
Oh,
actually
absolutely.
gets a lot of this information. But you have churches and them protesting in and of itself is their constitutional right. The
Mm-hmm.
minute they start threatening, the minute they start stalking and harassing, that's a misdemeanor at most. But if they lay their hands on you, that's assault. Uh, just I've been pushing that anyone that does a pagan pride in public, if you go to do a ritual in a public park, at least have armed security. And I know some will say that goes against the Wiccan Read. Well, not really. you're protecting your people. You're
Hmm.
protecting that's not going to violate the Wiccan.
And
It
we're going to
just
be talking about a lot about pagan pride because I think pagan pride is one of the most important assets in our community.
Mhm.
And last year we saw a lot of precursors to violence, aggressive actions, but not actually in and of themselves violent.
I'm afraid that'll rise.
We saw it in Nashville, we saw it in Chicago, where they walked right through the middle of it.
Yeah,
It violated the vendor booths and things of that nature, but they didn't do any actual crime. Hmm?
because most of them know the law. Most of them know how far to tread before they get in trouble. Most
And they
of
get,
them.
let's talk about financing them. One of the things they get financed uh, is is by you violating the law or by the police violating the law
Yeah,
of their First Amendment rights, and then they sue, and the police and other people have to settle out with them because they know the law so well. They draw you off sides. It's like in football, they draw the legal administration off sides and get them a penalty.
I'll go on a limb here too and say some of these far right groups that are doing this are funded by groups like the Heritage Foundation.
Oh, absolutely.
They're actually, look at Moms for Liberty. Moms for Liberty was one of the groups that went to try to take over schools by taking books out of libraries and attacking trans kids and things of that nature. This is no different. It's the same
And the
same root.
and we know that Moms for Liberty got a Koch check early on. You know, the Koch brothers early on were big
Yep,
financiers.
yep. Oh,
Um,
well, Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel's another name.
well, Peter Thiel is an apocalyptic. Oh, I want to do a whole show on him. I run a page
Uh,
called "Oh,
well,
I've heard
okay.
him."
You got okay. If you're gonna have Peter Thiel, you have to have Curtis Yarvin. That's
Yes.
another one.
So, and let's go ahead and get to one of the recent one, and then you have the Charlie Kirk, Joe Onset, the Pagan Threat. Let's take it right there. The books that came out just a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, the Pagan Threat.
Pagan Threat, which was Charlie Kirk was the forward, and
Yep.
Lawson was the author. And he was a pastor who'd been there, and he basically wrote out a battle plan
Hmm.
against paganism with a small p, which is cultural in the United States, and a
Yep.
little bit against the pagans with a big P, which is the actual religion. Hmm?
So yeah, you're gonna see more of that.
Hmm.
Again, I hate saying that, but you are, and you know, a lot of people they keep their head in the sand and say, "Yeah, it's just a book," or that preacher, he's irrelevant. They might be irrelevant, but it only takes two or three radicals in that, and just because they're in a church, a lot of them are on YouTube and Zoom, and they're online. So you don't know what kind of crazy is watching online stuff. That's going to go. That's a good idea. I'm going to go shoot up my closest pagan. You know, come on, folks, it can happen. And I'm not saying be scared. I'm not scared. Just be ready. Have a
Hmm.
plan for what's going to happen if someone comes to your house with a gun, or someone comes to your pagan pride with a gun. I'm not going to go with bomb yet, but at least a gun.
So let me offer another one. Now we talk about Homeland Security, which is becoming this sort of white supremacist interaction more than a cult. It is now a governmental force. Hmm?
Mm.
You can't get away from it. It is
No, it is.
not just a cult. It is cult ideology of white supremacy, but it's
Mm.
a governmental force. Whether legal or illegal, it's still they control violence. Hmm?
And it's interesting how it developed because, in 2016, nobody thought Trump was going to win, but he did.
I did.
And
I predicted it.
mhm, in 2017, you saw Charlottesville.
Hmm.
And a lot of people say, well, Trump didn't cause that. No, he did. That wasn't Trump's fault. What Trump did, though, was open the door of hate and allowed,
Hmm.
I was watching a show yesterday, as a matter of fact, last night, that yeah, the KKK of the 1920s, they all wore robes and hoods and stayed hidden. Now they don't. They don't care. In
Right.
2017, Charlottesville was the first time you saw neo Nazis, white supremacists, which are different. Um, you saw Patriot Front. You saw a whole bunch of groups that nobody had ever heard of before.
Hmm.
Walking down one street, beating people up, threatening and attacking. And then, of course, you had what was her name? Hyde, the girl that got killed with many injured when the dipshit drove his car through a protest in
Hmm.
Charlottesville. Um,
And
Ha-
yeah, he was convicted
Miss
finally.
Hire, Miss Hire, that's her name.
Yeah.
I can't remember her first name, but yeah, it's the victims I like to remember, not the
The perpetrators.
perpetrators. Yeah. Um, but yeah, and instead of like any president would do, he didn't
Hmm.
condemn it. He said there were fine people on both sides. Yeah, okay, that didn't solve a damn thing. Um, and then it just escalated from there. You went from the oath keepers, which initially were protect and defend the Constitution, but then it went far right.
Hmm.
Immediately, Trump could do no wrong. And now it's just we're going to protect and defend a person instead of the Constitution. Um,
Well,
so
identity, isn't it? It's not. It's more. So even if Trump disappeared tomorrow, right?
they would still, yeah, they'd still protect the
And
far
depending on
right.
how he died, he'd either become a Masonic entity,
Hmm.
if he died of, just sort of passing away naturally, he'd be a martyr. It depends on how he goes out.
Well, look at Charlie Kirk. He wasn't even a politician. He was more of an online influencer than anything.
He was a podcaster. He was an influencer. Yeah.
Yeah, and they made him a martyr.
And
So
3,000 of his little factions are going into high schools across the country to
I
convert
know,
Christians.
I
So,
know.
okay. So let me go ahead and wrap it up because I know I'm reaching the attention span of my audience because they are busy people. And we will bring you back. This is part of what I'm hoping to build this year. As you'll hear me
Beautiful.
more, is that this isn't just a one and done broadcast. This is the beginning of a movement towards more action this year, more progress, to know ourselves, to create a better quality of life. And one of that ways is understanding not living in fear. So, how do pagans not live in fear of all of this,
Oh my God.
and be something they can live with?
So Christians will say, leave it in the hands of God. I say, leave it in the hands of whatever deity you're working with. For me, it's
Mhm.
Morrigan. Morrigan is my primary deity I work with, and she's awesome. She's here all the time. Um, but if you don't have a deity, because I know that all pagans worship
Hmm.
or work with any other deities, go out and go for a walk in the woods. Just calm your mind.
Hmm.
Seriously. Um, and just know whatever is going to happen, it's going to happen. Just be ready for it. And by saying that, I mean be vigilant. Use situational awareness. And I know a lot of folks are probably, for me, it's easy. I live in the mountains. But if you're living in town, watch for strange cars that might be following you. Common sense stuff. If your gut's twinging because you know something doesn't look right, it probably ain't. Listen to your gut. That's the best I can tell you.
That's what human beings have done for a very long time.
Hmm.
I think one of the things that is disliked about paganism against all of the other sort of mainstream religions is this idea of getting back to the root self, getting back to the hunter, getting back to the gatherer. That what we're feeling isn't wrong. And there's this sort of intuition, this logic to all of it, that we live closer to nature. And I think this is very threatening to constructed systems, which is often what a cult is, a constructed system.
Hmm. And in closing, so I'm a witch. Okay,
Yeah.
I don't do spells. I don't do rituals. We pretty much live just what you described, hunter gatherers. We garden. We grow our own food.
Hmm.
We hunt. Um, we are hunter gatherers
Hmm.
by that definition. And I have Morgan, but Morgan, that's a story I guess we'll get to another time. But she actually came to me in a vision in 2003, just before we went to Iraq, and said, "I've been with you your entire life, and you guys are going to do great in Iraq. You'll be fine." And that was it. Um, and I had people that actually saw her. I'm closed off. My pituitary is closed. My third eye's closed. I can't astral. I can't do anything. Um, and there's a reason for that. We won't get there.
Hmm.
But uh, so I can't see her. I can feel her. Absolutely. Ravens come up. So I know when she's around. But anyway, we'll get to more stories another time.
Absolutely. So I think people are going to be fascinated by your story. Let us know. Let it known in the comments. Let it be known. Share out all every time you see this. And subscribe to any one of the systems that we're on.
We
So this
haven't
is our movement, and we're going to keep you informed.
we haven't even talked about paranormal.
Oh no, this was that. So there's a lot, and people understand. We're going to have a very deep conversation this year. I'm committed to 365 broadcasts. I expect that Eric will be part of it. And remember, we're on
That's
the
great.
verge of telepathic communication. Synthetically, globally, we can talk to anyone we want. So you go out today and let your voice be heard.
Sounds good.
And thank you for coming.